All right, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about a book that completely changed the game, The Empire Writes Back. This is one of those works that just shifted how we look at literature, language, and power by showing us how a story can become an act of resistance.
I mean, think about it for a second. It's a massive question, right? When an empire doesn't just control your land, but your culture, your history, your actual language, how on earth do you even begin to push back?
And there it is. That simple but incredibly powerful idea is what this is all about. People in former colonies started to answer the empire. They took the very tools of their colonizers, not to copy them, but to forge something totally new, something defiant.
So, to really get the resistance, you first have to understand the weapon. See, colonial power wasn't just about armies and flags. It was enforced through language, by controlling the entire story and deciding who was civilized and who wasn't.
Think of it like this. The English language was held up as the gold standard. It was correct. It was superior. It was the language of smart, progressive people. And what that does is it automatically creates a hierarchy, right? It pushes local languages down, making them seem less important, and with them, the very cultures they represent.
So, what do? How do you fight back against that kind of linguistic dominance? Well, The Empire Writes Back points to two absolutely brilliant strategies that writers used to grab language back and make it their own.
The resistance really has two flavors, like two sides of the same incredible coin. You either reject or you remake. The first move is abrogation, which is basically a flat-out refusal to play by the colonizers' rules. And the second is appropriation, taking their language and powerfully twisting it into something new. Let's dig into abrogation for a sec. This is so much more than bad grammar. It's a political statement. It's writers saying, you know what, your Queen's English isn't the only English that matters. By intentionally breaking the rules of standard syntax and grammar, they are rejecting that whole colonial idea that there's only one right way to speak. And then you've got appropriation. And this is where things get really, really creative. This is where writers take the English language and just inject it with the soul of their own culture. They start weaving in local words, native speech patterns, unique cultural rhythms. They literally transform the colonizers' language into a new expressive weapon, one that's perfectly built to tell their stories. Okay, so besides just reshaping the language, these post-colonial writers developed another amazing tactic. They went straight for the heart of the empire's library, its literary classics, and they started rewriting them.
This whole strategy has a name. It's called counter-discourse. You can think of it as talking back to the big, foundational stories of Western culture. It's about finding the characters who were silenced, the perspectives that were ignored, and giving them a brand new, powerful voice.
And these two examples are just perfect. Okay, so you've probably heard of Jane Eyre, right? Well, there's this minor character, Bertha Mason, the famous mad woman in the attic, who comes from the Caribbean. In Jean Rhys's Wide Sargasso Sea, she's not minor anymore. She gets a name, a history, a full life, all the humanity the original book just denied her. It's the same with Amos Caesar's A Tempest, which flips Shakespeare's story on its head to tell it from the perspective of the colonized. It's a direct literary clapback.
And, this isn't just some clever literary exercise. The whole point is to rock the boat, to challenge that Eurocentric worldview, to give a voice back to characters who were treated like props, and to completely flip the script on who gets to be the hero.
Now, all of this literary resistance, it's all coming from a very real, very human place. The struggle to figure out who you are after colonialism. I mean, what does it feel like to live between two different worlds? One that's yours by heritage and one that was forced upon you.
And that question leads us to this key concept of hybridity. The book makes this fantastic point that identity isn't some pure, fixed thing. For people in post-colonial societies, it's often this complex, messy, and beautiful blend of cultures that creates something entirely new, a hybrid identity, shaped by the forces of history.
But that experience is also often filled with this really profound sense of displacement. Writers explore that feeling of being unmoored, of not really belonging to the colonizer's world, but also being cut off from the world of your ancestors. That sense of alienation becomes a huge central theme.
So where does this all lead? What does it all add up to? Let's get right to the central, beating heart of The Empire Writes Back.
This, right here, this is the single sentence that just blew the doors off the literary world. For so long, literature from the colonies was dismissed as, a cheap copy, a lesser version of the real stuff from Europe. And this book just forcefully says, no, absolutely not.
At the end of the day, this isn't just a footnote in the English literary canon. It's its own vibrant, powerful, world-changing tradition. It's a creative act that transforms language, a resistant act that challenges power, and a profoundly political act that reclaims a past to forge a new future.
And that really leaves us with one last vital question, doesn't it? The work of writing back isn't finished. It's ongoing. And it forces us to ask ourselves right now, in our own world, whose voices are we still not hearing? Whose histories have been pushed to the margins? And whose stories are just waiting for their chance to be told?